Grandmaster Igor Khenkin from Russia has just played the move 24 Queen h5, applying pressure to the white king side. FIDE master Bobby Cheng from Australia found a very inventive way of applying maximum pressure to the black position. How did he go about this? What would you do here with the white pieces? Now Bobby decides he's going to keep the exchange. And that's a good move too. It just puts the question back. And he didn't say that black has a slight edge here, but I think this position's not too bad for white long term because of the positional weaknesses. So I wouldn't be believing the engine too much. And white plays rook e1, which is, even though passive, allows the knight on d3 to move away from its position. Knight c3. So here black's trying to use the c file to conjure up some threats against the white pieces, mainly the queen here, where the knight on c3 attacks queen d1. And Bobby decides rather radically to just chop straight away with the bishop on e5, not allowing any complications there. So obviously he can't take on d6 because of knight takes e1, obviously. Knight takes queen d1, which is a threat. So I thought maybe just moving the queen would be the order of the day, but no, he decides, alright, I'm just going to get rid of that threat straight away. So this is just a safe way of playing without worrying too much about your opponent's plans. Now it's black's turn, and black decides to recapture. White then moves the knight on f4, knight from d3 to f4, because it was under attack. I think the d pawns and the f pawns both cancel each other out, so I don't think anyone should really lose this. But the black king has to be put into a bit more safety. Rook d3. This is a pretty good move, actually. The rook's got in there. The rook's in there, and it's saying, making little threats. It says to the queen, you've got to move. I'm also on the bishop, so you would seem that queen c2 would be relatively forced. Or queen b1, which is what played. Both these moves are playable in the sense that they defend the bishop. But they're probably the only two defenses of the bishop. But now black's gained some time. But now the bishop's tied down to defending the rook, and this is important because the queen, when it moved, it counterattacked the rook on d3. I would probably just play something like knight g4, but it might run into h3. Knight d7 must be playable. Rook e8 looks a bit loose. You'd be probably forced to sack the exchange. So yeah, alright, knight g4 is what I play. But Khenkin chose queen h5. This is good because he at least moves the queen. And now there's some problems for black. For white, he was threatening the exchange sack also, maybe. So maybe that's possible, but I don't think it's particularly good. Instead, white decides to play b5. By the way, the computer recommended bishop d1. So let's have a look at bishop d1 and what the defense was against the bishop d1. And now it's saying rook c3 because knight e5 must be a threat. Let's say you play a silly move. We'll just find out what the threat is. So if we'll play a silly move, let's say h6, and I'm pretty sure it'll say knight e5 is a threat. As you can see, knight e5 is a problem because of the discovered attack between the bishop. The bishop now hits the queen, and at the same time the knight's hitting the d3 rook. So it appears that bishop d1 had to be met by rook c3. And now we have just a position where white, well, actually it's saying, can't make up its mind whether white's clearly better or not, but it looks like rook e7. The move rook e7 exerts an initiative on the black position. For example, rook f7, knight e5. That's a very good move because it's threatening to win the rook again and attack the queen. So multiple problems here for white. So rook c3 probably was a better try for Khenkin here than what he played. Instead, well, sorry, not for Khenkin, for what he played. Instead, Bobby didn't utilise his pin on d1. He decided to play the move b5. b5 is pretty sharp. It attacks the rook indirectly on d3 with the queen, and at the same time it attacks the bishop on a6. So white is forced to decide, black's forced to decide what they're going to do. I can't see much better than chopping. Rook f3 was interesting. Let's have a look at this. Rook f3, new variation. G takes f3, and now bishop b5 is certainly possible. Another variation. Computer's saying it's equal. Yeah, I suppose it is. It's a bit of, still a little bit unclear. Queen f3 you can't really get away with because of, obviously, well, could throw in the intermezzo first and then take on a6, but the problem's going to be that a6 is on pre, so that's not the move. So it doesn't look like the exchange tack is going to get you much. So let's see what happens there. b5, and now black decides they're just going to capture pawn. So the position is becoming really critical now, but the good thing about this move now is that it sets up bishop d1, and it makes bishop d1 even stronger, because when the bishop moves to d1, there's going to be a discovered attack from the queen on b1. The queen on b1 is going to discover attack the bishop on b5. And this is exactly what Bobby Cheng does. So now white has an edge according to the computer, and black must be very careful here. Bishop c4 makes sense to keep the rook protected, but now knight e5 is a good blow, because the black queen's attacked and the black rook's attacked. Both these pieces are attacked. One from the knight e5, the other one from the bishop d1.